This is a quick introduction into how to paint with coffee and some of the basic materials you will need to get started. The first thing that you really need is the coffee itself. And the coffee is used in two different ways. There's the liquid form, which is your basic house coffee, or I like to use a shot of espresso because it's a little bit darker. And the other form of it is you take some of the liquid coffee and you put it in a small dish and then put it out in the sun and let it completely dry. Once it's dry, then it's highly concentrated and it's used a lot like a watercolor technique would be used. A quick little example is if I just use the liquid form, you can see it's not very dark. It's light, but my brush still has some liquid in it. And when I put it in the darker coffee, you can see how much darker that is. And you paint in these two different versions. The darker adds the depth and starts to create the look that you want. It's mostly because of the layers that are behind it. You have to let each layer dry completely before you add another layer of darker coffee. If you don't do that, the new layer that you apply will just sink into the wet background and your image just won't get darker. That can be kind of frustrating. You'll learn to work with that. I like to start with a square or a rectangle or some background solid image. And when I do that, it gives me a base to paint on top of, and once the painting is finished, it also adds to the overall composition of your painting. To show the layers, if you'll notice on the right, the leaf is all pretty much a solid color, although not completely solid, because when you paint with coffee, the texture comes out because of the coffee quality, so it always has something interesting happening. But on the left, you can see where I've started to add many layers, patiently waiting while each underneath layer dries before adding another layer to it. And then this also shows the benefit of using that box or some image in the background. You can see once the final leaves are painted, that background gives them an interesting look. This is another example of really painting out of the box where the leaves are just pouring down, but if not for that one box in the background, it just has a way of holding it together and really adds to the composition. It doesn't have to be a square or a rectangle. It can be any shape, abstract or whatever. I like to use also an oval because ovals have sort of an elegant quality to them. But you'll find once you start painting that you'll discover new things